Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about what is happening up in the stars above for the weekend. It's Friday, and that means we're looking ahead for the next couple of days to see what it is that we can learn about ourselves, right, from the stars. And, this is a weekend where there's not a tremendous number of planets that are doing anything. Not, there's no big dance in the dance hall above going on. However, what is going on is of pretty big importance as Saturn turns retrograde this week, the first retrograde of its time spent in Aries. And as well, we have a new human design week. So we're going to dig down a little bit because it's not often that we have an opportunity to talk about an outer planet. And Saturn is kind of in between the inner and the outer. Jupiter and Saturn kind of form this bridge between the personal and the transpersonal or collective. And especially at a time when it has just moved into a new sign and is going to retrograde in that sign and backward to the sign it was in previously. So in this case, it's in Aries. It will be going backwards to the sign of Pisces. And what does all of that mean for us? So let me give you the dates here. So today, July 13th, or on July 13th, sorry, is the day that Saturn will turn retrograde. It's between the 12th and the 13th, depending where you are in the on the planet. For us here in the Pacific Northwest, it'll actually be on the 12th. And I think even for the East Coast of the US, we are switching on the 12th with the rest of the time zones to further east, all changing on the 13th. Either day, you are looking at a change, a slow rewind, if you will, that will carry us and carry Saturn backward into Pisces. So right now, Saturn is at 1 degree 56 minutes of Aries. It will move backward to 25 degrees 9 minutes of Pisces. So you need to look at your chart in the Aries quadrant and how it moves backward to the Piscean quadrant or house, right? And he won't station direct until November 27th, and it won't be until February 13th of 2026 that we see him back in the sign of Aries. So from about September 1st, when he retrogrades backward to 29 Pisces, we'll have until February 13th, we'll have a if you will, of the lessons of Pisces Saturn. And so, what does this mean, right? Because that's the important part. What does this mean for all of us as we go through this? So, Saturn retrograde isn't just about slowing down, although it does slow things down in a way. It's also a cosmic checkpoint for all of us. And because this is Saturn's first retrograde in the sign of Aries since the mid 1990s, right? So if you think back those 30 some years backwards, that makes this change pretty significant, right? Because it's not happening like every day. Now, Aries represents new beginnings, and it's the spark of a new identity and the spark of your own sovereignty that we've been talking about. It opens up the possibility of a new pathway and a new way of asserting yourself in the world. This is the Aries energy of Saturn. And since Saturn entered Aries back in May, you've likely been feeling this call to step up to the plate in some way in your life, right? To claim your authority, to stand in your own power, to initiate something bold, maybe even something you've never dared dreamed of before, right? Or that you've never dreamed of before. But now Saturn says, wait, let's review. Um, this retrograde gives us an opportunity to reflect on the new identity structures, perhaps, that you've been building, and whether the foundation is laid in integrity and your inner authority, or if you're still reacting to old wounds and old ego patterns in your life. And also gives us an opportunity to look at where our confidence may need to be shored up somewhat before we take that next big leap. And these are things that Saturn brings to us. Remember, he's the teacher, right? The grand teacher, if you will. But in Aries, he's teaching you how to be your own authority, to be your own boss, right? To be your own person, to be your own unique self. And as he dips back into Pisces, when we get into September, we get one final review of the spiritual, emotional, and karmic themes that Saturn brought to us during the last 2.5, 3 years of his transit through Pisces. Have we let go of what we needed to release? What have we let go? Have we released what no longer suits us or fits us or is us, right? Have we truly integrated our healing? Is it is it something that we've really worked on within ourselves? And are we ready now to lead with both spiritual maturity and courage, right? Courage. Aries is a sign of courage. It's ruled by Mars, and the retrograde brings us this sort of time, space to breathe a little bit more life into who it is that we want to be. And this isn't, Saturn punishment, right? We often think of Saturn as the stern disciplinarian, right? The punisher. But it's a gift of recalibration. And if you remember earlier in the month, we talked about July being a month of recalibration anyway, right? This is a time for us to be provoked into moving more closely into alignment with spirit. And it's this gift of recalibration that, Saturn is officially um, giving us before his launch fully into Aries in February of 2026. So today we're going to walk through several facets of this Saturn retrograde, what it means for your growth, and how to navigate this pause in your own life, and how to work with the sacred window of time between endings and new beginnings, which is, if you think about Aries, it's the new beginning, and Pisces is the ending, and they're both going to be touched in this particular retrograde. So let me just stop for a second and say good morning to everybody who's joining us this morning. I first saw Debbie Tibbetts-Tumiel out there, and thank you, Debbie, for a reminder to please hit the like button or the thumbs up button, depending on which platform you're listening to me on, and share the program with your friends and your networks, your social networks. And let's see, Diana, good morning to you. Christine, good morning to you. Julie, thank you for showing up this morning and being here with us. Teddy Hickox, BSH, Brian, yes, rest in peace. Emotions are high, definitely that. Thank you, Christine, Julie, Kelly, I told you. I told you I might get emotional. J-Lo, good morning. Kelly Blau, good morning. Amy T, good morning. I have my Brian with me this morning. I think this is the first live show that I've done actually on the day, right? Other shows or the other days would have not have been a Monday or a Friday. I didn't think it was going to be this hard, but okay, let me get it together here. So, what does this retrograde mean for your growth? And it's really interesting because Saturn is sitting at this gate of spirituality or the love of spirit. It's on the identity center in your human design. And it reminds us, that we are of divine nature. So as we go deeper now into what the meaning of this retrograde is, keep thinking about the fact that some of the biggest lessons that Saturn, the teacher, is bringing to us at this point in time, at this point in our evolution, is this idea of um, joining the practical, physical you with the spiritual, divine you, right? Yeah, that your purpose for being here was to live, as a human who's maybe forgot about the fact that they are of divine nature. So Saturn begins this retrograde in the gate 25, and the gate 25 being spirit. And this is no accident here, right? The gate 25 sits at the very end of Pisces and the very beginning of Aries. And it's the threshold between endings and beginnings, between surrender and assertion, right? Piscean surrender, Aries assertion. Sorry, you guys, I'm leaking here, and I guess I'm human in this respect. Okay. And it's between soul and self, right? Piscean energy of the soul and Aries energy of the self, ensouled, right? The soul being within. And it carries this powerful message for us all during this period of time that your purpose is to find, no matter what you think your purpose is in terms of living out your personal human design and how your personal astrology, um, infiltrates your beingness. Your real purpose is to find your way back to your divine self. That's that's the message that we are receiving here. So this is called the gate of love of the self, but it is also a gate of universal love. So unconditional, universal love and spiritual innocence. It's not about dogma. It's not about religious belief systems. It's not about perfection. It's about our continuing opportunity to realign with spirit, which reconnects us with the spark within, that existed before the world told you who you were to be, right? From your conditioning, from your family, from the culture you're in, from the institutions that you grew up within, that all sort of imprinted over the top of your spiritual self who it is that you thought you needed to be. So, Saturn moving retrograde at this particular gate is this opportunity for you to ask yourself the question if you're in integrity with your higher self, or have you just covered yourself up with a bunch of things that, really were meaningless for you? Are your goals and responsibilities really aligned with your soul's truth? Or have fear or obligation or ego shaped who you've become? And then by that shaped your actions and what you do on a daily basis. And are you trying to push forward when you really need to remember who you are first? Right? Who you are first, right? That's the grounding. That's the 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 thing we've got to get back to. And this retrograde isn't about striving. Actually, no retrograde is about striving because the energy goes within. And it's about clearing away the distortion about yourself, about how you can move forward. And there's a kind of new power that's available here for all of us, one that comes from our divine essence and not from our willpower. Because most of the time, a lot of the time, we are pushing forward with willpower. And it's interesting in human design, the will center is also called the ego center because it is the ego that is prompting the will to move forward or to take action, not always in the way that it is, correct for us. And as Saturn retraces then his steps and moves back into Pisces, we're reminded that the foundation of true leadership and true maturity and true Aries fire must be built on soul alignment. It can't be built on falsehoods. And it's not bravado, it's not control, but really it's about spiritual clarity. Like, who is it that you are truly? And because gate 25 is where Pisces' surrender meets Aries action, it becomes a very big theme for all of us over these next several months about getting clarity about who we are. And that's the message here. Before you leap forward, um, you have to return to source. You have to return to that I am presence. You have to return to your heart and return to your inner truth. And from that place, then you can lead, whether you're leading others or leading yourself forward into the truth, right? Your truth. So, Gate 25. Oh, I should be showing my human design. Let me add this to the stage so you guys can see it. The gate 25 right here on the identity center, the blue center. I always forget you can't see my cursor moving around, but the identity center is the center of love and direction. It's a compass and it has one-way direction, right? It just can attract to you the circumstances, the people, the opportunities that align you with your true and authentic self. So, to work with the retrograde of Saturn in a conscious way, we have to understand what Saturn is really pressing on. What is it pushing us to, or what is it opening up the opportunity, the gateways to for us? And for that, we turn to the gate 25. We turn to it in the gene keys, where the layers of this journey are beautifully revealed for us. So, gene keys is is it like the higher octave, let's say, of human design, where the gates become the gene keys, which connect it to our DNA, which then also connects it to the potential for the expression of the shadow, of the gift frequency, and then of the highest frequency called a siddhi, right? And so it shows us the spectrum of energies that we are elevating toward or evolving toward. And the 3 frequencies, the shadow of the gate 25 is constriction, constriction where we close up or we pull in. And this is what we experience when we disconnect from our divine nature. It shows up as tightness, it shows up as fear or judgment, or maybe an inability to let love in, right? Love is the natural order of the universe. And if we can't feel that love, we've closed ourselves off. Well, often we do this without even realizing that we've done it. We may become overly rigid in the shadow, maybe perfectionistic or numb, especially when we are faced with loss or uncertainty. So during this retrograde, Saturn will likely bring up situations where you feel emotionally or spiritually cut off. And that's your cue. This is your pause, soften, listen inward, and see what it is that you have constricted. And also, in that, seeing the pathway of how you can move beyond the constriction. In the gift, the gate 25 or the gene key 25 is called acceptance. And as we become more aware of our constriction, we can begin to release it. You can't release something if you're not aware of what it is, right? So acceptance isn't passive. It's a profound spiritual action that you take in response to the recognition of constriction somewhere in your being or somewhere in your life. And it's the willingness to love what is, even when it's messy, incomplete, painful, right? Loving what is. And that's actually a book by Byron Katie, Loving What Is. It's a great book. This is Saturn teaching us spiritual maturity, by the way, not through punishment, but through presence, through being available and witnessing your own growth, through releasing pain and constriction. You may find yourself, though, visiting or revisiting, it's re-re's, right? Revisiting old wounds or old roles that you've played or karmic ties that you have with others, but your task isn't to fix them. You're not here to fix those roles or fix those messy entanglements, right? You're really here to embrace them in sort of a moment of time with grace, right? With grace, being able to, return to this idea of love and unconditional love. When we get to the siddhi or the highest expression of the gate 25, we're at the siddhi of universal love. And this is where 25 ultimately leads us, right? It's not just romantic love or, human love. This is the unconditional, all encompassing, all embracing, unconditional love that holds the cosmos together, right? It's a bigger lesson here of love. When we live from this frequency, our actions become pure expressions of truth, and we stop striving and we start radiating love, right? The gate 25 is the place where we radiate this love outward to our fellow humans, to our fellow animals, our plants, to the earth herself, to the cosmos, right? It's big love. So Saturn is asking us at this point in time, as he moves into this retrograde, can you accept yourself as you are right now? Not the perfect version, because you are perfect in this moment, or else you would be different. Not the healed version, but the real you, right? The real you, warts and all. Can you rebuild your identity as well around your divine essence? Not your performance, not your productivity, not your pain, but the real you and the divine essence of you, right? The perfection of your divine essence. So, this retrograde is a sacred unraveling, if you will. And on the other side of this, if you're willing to go inward and find, the strength to change yourself or to see the truth of who you are, there's the potential for wholeness, right? Wholeness. That's the key, right? That you're a whole being. All right. And that's what 25, the gate 25 whispers to us. You were never broken, right? You were always divine. No matter what your experiences are, no matter what your losses are, no matter what the pain and the wounding is, the issues, the abandonment, the resentment, the fear, the betrayal, the lack, the guilt, the shame, no matter what all that is, those are things that just cover up the true, authentic you. All right. So let's look now. I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a momento and put up the astrology screen. All right. So what you're looking at now is Aries, where it is that Saturn. I've circled Saturn here on the chart for you. This is where Saturn retrograde is the area in which he is moving retrograde from the first degree, almost the second degree of Aries backward into Pisces, 25 degrees Pisces. And I thought we'd take a moment to look at Saturn moving retrograde through the different houses and how that might impact you, because that's where the uniqueness of this comes to you. Right, so you have Aries, which looks like this. If you can see the symbol, sorry, I kind of wrote over it, but it looks like the ram's horns or the ram's head. And wherever this sign is in your chart, you'll notice it's part of a slice of pie, right? The pie slice here is the area of your life where Saturn is starting the retrograde. And this span right here that you see is where Saturn is. So it's in the very early degrees of Aries. So let's look at that house first, but also know that as he retrogrades, he'll change houses partway through. And as he changes houses, it changes the impact a titch, right? So let's talk about the houses first. So if you have a first house, this would be the first house. It sits at the 9 o'clock position of the chart. So if you have Aries there, you are experiencing maybe a complete identity review. And you're being asked to really recalibrate how you show up in the world. And then what letting go of the old masks, right? The old things that have covered up your truth or the personas that you've worn instead of being the true, authentic you. And your task is to align with your true essence. And the question is, are you acting from ego or acting from soul, right? That's the question for the first house. Now, the second house, if you have Aries here, it is a house that is time to revisit your values and your worth and your relationship with money. And of course, the negative of that, of scarcity and a fear of lack, right? Saturn asks, do you truly value yourself? Your divine worth doesn't come from what you produce. It comes from who you are. It's intrinsic value. So the idea of money on this particular planet really clouds our self-worth because for whatever reason on this planet, we seem to have thought of value as more dollars, right? Those who have more dollars have more value, get more perks, etc. But it doesn't change the intrinsic value of you as an individual. But you might be grappling with those issues during the Saturn retrograde. Now, if you have Saturn retrograde in the third house is a house of communication, learning, mindset, and all of those things will get a spiritual tune up for you during Saturn's retrograde. Now, also remember, this isn't just this retrograde. This is also where Saturn will be transiting for the next 2.5 years as he comes back to Aries in February of 2026. So, in the third house, are your words aligned with truth and are they aligned with love? Or have you aligned what you say with what you think people want to hear? That type of thing. Are you speaking from your higher self or from fear and reactivity? Right? Those questions are big questions for you if you have a third house Saturn in Aries retrograde. Now, the fourth house is always called the house of home and family, traditions. It is a very foundation area, your roots, family patterns, all of the emotional foundation of your life are up for revision. And you're being invited to heal the past here and maybe rebuild your inner sanctuary from a place of divine trust as opposed to anything based on the practical relevant world, and asking yourself the question, are you at home with yourself, right? The fifth house is a house of fun and joy and play, love and romance. It is also a place where we must risk take. We have to take some kind of risks. We have to put ourselves out there in the world. So, this is a house also of creative expression. So, creative expression, joy, and self love take center stage for you if you have a fifth house Saturn retrograde. Can you create from spirit and not just the ego? And this retrograde invites a deep reconnection for you to your divine child within. This is the inner child, right? The child that loves to play, that loves to create, that sees potential and possibility and not limitation or constriction. So let it play. That's your goal. If you have a sixth house Aries or sixth house Saturn retrograde, then routines and health and well-being and service are under review. Are your daily choices aligned with your spiritual self? Saturn here helps you really spiritually refine your habits, not just your to-do list, right? The sixth house can sometimes get to be very practical and oriented to the doing. But we must remember this house is also about well-being and health. And what is it that you need to return to support your well-being? And that might mean creating healthy habits and detoxifying yourself or your environment or your relationships in some way to be able to allow the true you to shine through. Now, as we move into the seventh house, we start to move into the houses now that are relational, right? That have to do with you in the world. So if you have an Aries seventh house, your relationships mirror your path back to yourself. So you may be facing tests of integrity or boundaries or soul aligned connections. And then asking yourself, are your partnerships sacred contracts or are they karmic loops? Right? Do you keep finding yourself in the same issues with the same people, or even if the same issue but different people, then you're in a karmic loop instead of having a sacred contract with someone that is helping you learn from what you see in the mirror. And, this is true literally for everyone, but when you look at your relationships and you see these beautiful people looking back at you, that's a reflection of the beautiful person you are. But if you're looking outward and you're seeing things that you don't like, or you're blaming or shaming or judging or guilt tripping someone else, then it's really a reflection of where you aren't at peace within you. So for those of you with Aries on the seventh house, this is a big opportunity to look at the mirror of your relationships and see where you're off base or where you are absolutely in the center. The eighth house. Now, this is a powerful house for healing and for trauma or deep trauma healing, even. It is about reclaiming your soul's power. So the eighth house here is a house of death and rebirth. And in this house, we are often moving through a lot of emotional energy, reclaiming our ability to hold ourselves within the relationship with others, right? So, not losing ourselves completely in the relationship, but also not forcing another to become me, right? Not to become you. So there's a lot of healing here, and Saturn asks you to confront any fears that you have around intimacy, around death and transformation. And what are you ready to release for good? What are you ready to just say, I'm done with that, right? I'm done with that. So the eighth house is a very tender place as well because it's so emotional. And Aries here is going to confront where you need to be bold in making those next steps forward. The ninth house is a house that is, and by the way, in this particular chart, you'll notice that Aries is on the ninth house. So if this were a person, their Aries energy would be in this particular place. And the ninth house is about beliefs, philosophies, our spirituality, our connection to our higher self, our connection to our divine self, right? It really embodies everything that is our relationship to spirit, God, source, whatever, universality, whatever you call that. So your beliefs and your spiritual philosophy and your worldview are evolving if this is the place Saturn is retrograding for you. And this retrograde may call you to sort of return to a deeper truth, one that maybe has gotten clouded with all the trauma, drama, chaos in the world, one that transcends dogma and connects you directly to source, right? This is your divine pipeline, if you will, your ability to connect directly to your higher self. And by the way, everybody has all these houses, right? You're not missing it. It's just a matter of what's being focused on for you versus what's being focused on for someone else. So all of you have that pipeline available to you, right? But for those of you who have Aries on that house, this is the time to reestablish that connection. If you have Saturn and Aries on the 10th house, then your career and your leadership and your legacy, in a way, are up for spiritual realignment. And this isn't about what you do, it's about who you become through what you do. And what you do here is lead with integrity and with soul. And the question might become, what is it that feels really true for you to share and be of service with in the world? So, career and legacy here can get really mixed up with purpose. And, sometimes, when I work with clients, I often, especially younger ones, right, that want to know, what's my purpose? What am I here for? They think it's a job, right? That there's some job or career that makes them be who they are or helps them be their purpose or live their purpose. But it's not the career and profession. The career and profession is really just the conduit through which you share your purpose in the world. So that might be under reconsideration if you have a 10th house Aries Saturn going retrograde. The 11th house, you're being called to refine your vision for the future. The 11th house looks at your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations. It is also about the communities that you are aligned with. So let go of false belonging here. Reorient yourself toward a mission rooted in love and authenticity. And, chances are at some point you've had a higher vision for yourself, and maybe let that go for whatever reason, for practical reasons, right? We do things for practical reasons quite frequently. But can you reinstate the dream, right? Can you reconnect to the dream? That will be your goal. The 12th house. The 12th house, always the deepest house, right? This is a spiritual initiation, right? If you have Aries on the 12th house, you may feel called inward, toward solitude, toward healing, and toward release, releasing fear, blocks, and limitations, and karmic connections, karmic experiences. This is Saturn asking you, are you ready to let spirit guide you? rather than the pain and the wounds of what you've experienced in the past. It's a very introverted place. So it'll be an interesting thing for you, as Aries on the 12th house is also, a very extroverted sign, right? Aries pushing outward. But for you, it's also about pushing inward, right? Being true to your inner spirit, right? Being true to your inner self. So find the house in your chart, right? Where 0 to 2 Aries falls. And that's where the retrograde starts. And then track the house backwards to Pisces. And that's where Saturn will finish his journey and also finish this, spiritual finding your divine essence, right? And that arc reveals the sacred territory that you're revisiting during this period of time. All right, I'm going to go back and see if people are doing okay here. I'm going to take that out, remove that one. There we go. Okay. So, how's everybody doing out there? Questions? Anybody? Kelly, not sure what happened, but sending love. My son died by suicide 4 years ago today in a shocking experience that, yeah, just shocking because he wasn't suicidal. In a mad moment of craziness, he shot himself, right? All right. Anyway, Tom, good morning to you. Asa, glad to have you with us. Good morning, Jacqueline. Kelly, would any of this be heightened for me being a Pisces sun, Aries rising? Oh, heavens, yes, right? So when we were talking about the house that Saturn was going retrograde in, yours would be the first house, and it will be moving backward then into Pisces in your 12th house. So in a way, you're both dealing with your new identity and, trying on the real true essence of who you are. And then you'll have that time where you get to revisit your divine source, right? And what has been covering up your true self and make new choices. So Saturn will be, sort of moving slowly at first backward into Pisces because it takes him until September to get there. And then when he does arrive back in Pisces, he arrives at the karmic degree, 29, right? He'll arrive at 29 degrees, giving everybody this opportunity to look back within and see where it is you've deviated from your spiritual truth, from your spiritual essence. But for you, Kelly, because that takes him back into your 12th house, you'll have a little bit longer period of time of him moving through what those fears are, what those past experiences are that have covered up your true divine self. So it'll be a very inward experience for you during this period of time. J-Lo, I have Aries in the 11th and we'll be having it amplified as Jupiter is there, also Chiron. Yep, there's that, right? So amplified could also be good, right? Once you really get the lesson of what the vision is, of what your dream is, and of what the community is that you really want to be a part of, and then releasing yourself from all the old stuff, right? This could be very good for you. J-Lo says, wow, this is exactly what I've been doing between this 10th and 11th house, depending on the house system used. Exactly. I use the whole sign system, so you get to go back and forth across that. Christine, Pisces, Sun, and Aries. Makes sense, right? Kamal, good morning to you. Julie, I have to dip out early from the live for an appointment, but I will finish later. Thank you for being with us, Julie. And Kamal, good morning to you as well. All right, so let's move now to the new Human Design Week, which also begins on Sunday with the Saturn retrograde, depending on time zone. And it's interesting because the new Human Design Week puts the sun at the gate 62, which is called the gate of preparation. And it puts the earth at the gate 61, which is called the gate of wonder. So as we move into the week of July 13th through 18th, which is that Human Design Week, and the sun and earth shift into these very different but complementary energies, it sort of mirrors part of this process of our Saturn retrograde and what we're experiencing through that. So let me again add to the stage here the picture of the Human Design chart. And if you take a look up at the throat center, which is this magenta square right here at the neck in the throat. That is where the gate 62 is. And then the earth up in the very top head center, the gate 61, the gate of wonder and awe, right, in the pressure center called the head center. So the sun enters the gate 62, called the gate of preparation, and it's located in the throat center, which brings this sort of logical and detailed focus to our outer expression. And it can also bring an opportunity for us to really tune into where it is that we use logic and practicality and all of that to sort of cover up the spiritual and the divine, right? Um, I think of this gate quite frequently with people who have a lot of the logic circuit in their particular human design. So if you're born during this week of July 13th through 18th, you have both these gates identified as your sun and your earth, right? So we have the very practical, logical 62 juxtaposed against the earth saying, yeah, but your grounding is in wonder and awe and in seeing the magic and the wonder of the world of spirit, right? Of being aware and okay with the unseen realm, the anything but logic realm, right? So you're embodying both of these. And so we're actually, all of us for this week, being asked to embody both the divine and the human, right? The very practical, physical orientation of the logical world, as well as not forgetting the fact that we come from a very spiritual, wonder filled existence on the other side, or that divineness is characterized by who we are in human form. So this week is, there's also the gate 61, the one up in the head center there, roots us in this pressure that we feel to understand the unknowable, to seek higher truth. So we may feel pressure also to be seeking that higher truth at the same time that, the very physical preparation details, seeing to the details information is also happening. So this week offers us this cosmic balance between speaking what is practical, throat center energy, and contemplating what is mystical. And I would even say that crossing over, speaking what is mystical, right? So if we break this down, um, in quantum human design, the gate 62 is called preparation, but in traditional human design, this was called the gate of details. And this energy is characterized by what you would think of as Virgo qualities and traits: organizing, labeling, preparing ideas even in a way that allows for clear communication. It is, after all, on the throat center. It's the voice that says, I think, and it's tied to the logical circuit. But under the surface, this gate is not just about being precise. It's about bringing order to what we intuitively know is coming, or to what it is that we need to do to prepare for what is coming, right? In the gene keys, the gate 62 or gene key 62 moves us from intellect, which is the shadow energy, to precision, which is the gift, and to impeccability as the siddhi, the highest expression. So in the shadow energy of intellect, you may feel overly critical and maybe even obsessed with thought and thinking and getting everything just right, right? It has to be just perfect. In the gift, we begin to harness the language and details and structure in service of clarity, but not control. This is sort of where we begin the angelic language, if you will, or the language of the cosmos. Um, and it's language that defies words sometimes, right? The throat center can sometimes be receiving from the head center, the ajna, and even from the lower parts of the human design, this information that defies logic. But the gate 62 is attempting to put it into words that make sense. And in the gift, we can begin to harness that language. We can begin to see how it is that we can um, clarify the divine in some way. Now, the siddhi is impeccability, and that's such a non-sexy word, right? But it's the divine clarity of speech and thought that aligns us to the mental and the spiritual planes. So we're being aligned in different ways here. The 62 could be very much a part of the physical being and the mental. And then we've got the 61 that is aligning us with the spiritual and the mental. So we have this alignment going on. So this week you're being asked, are your words aligned with truth? Are your thoughts in service to the greater plan or just noise? Just blah, blah, blah going on in your head. And again, the thoughts here are what drive our emotions sometimes, right? And emotions sometimes drive our thoughts, but both are important in driving our manifesting what it is that we want to see in our lives. So we have to be very aware of what's going on in the mind. Now, when we look at the gate 61, the gate of wonder, this is the pressure that we feel to understand the mystical or the unknowable and the divine. And it's not about finding concrete answers because you rarely will find concrete answers there. It's about holding the question with awe, right? Awe. It makes me think, I wonder what God is about, or I wonder what, where did God begin, or where did source begin, or the wonder, right? All the questions that we might ask about that. And gate 61 sits on that head center. So it's creating the mental pressure to make sense of life's mysteries. But the truth is, this gate thrives not in the answers, but in the contemplation. It doesn't have the answers. It has more questions, right? The gates in the head center are all about questions. Often the 61 is about the why, right? Why does this happen? Why, do we experience this? Why do I feel cut off from source? Why, do things happen why do bad things happen to good people? Blah, blah, blah. Why, the why? So it's the contemplation, but there aren't answers here in the gate 61. And in the gene keys, the 61, the gate or the gene key 61 moves from psychosis in the shadow to inspiration as the gift, and then sanctity as the siddhi. And I love these word sandwiches that we get with the gene keys. In the shadow, the psychosis looks like obsession, right? We could be obsessed with a thought or a spiritual confusion that can become obsessive. In the gift, as we move up, it becomes a wellspring of inspiration, right? We can dig in and we can just have this, imagination that, all of these different irrational thoughts or spiritual confusion that we had in the shadow just becomes insight. And that insight flows from beyond logic, right? There's just not logic to it. We can't prove it, right? We can't classify, quantify, at least not yet. I don't know that there's ever going to come a time where we can quantify and classify spirit. But at the Siddhic level, the highest expression, this is a state of being that is so in tune with the divine wonder that the very presence becomes sacred. This is what sanctity is. The very presence of the question becomes sacred, right? Your very presence becomes sacred. So this coming week, from the 13th of July to the 18th, you might feel that tension between needing to figure it all out, right? That's what the head center wants to do, figure it all out. And also realizing that your most powerful truths are felt, not explained. So frequently, I know this is part of my experience, so I bet it's part of yours too. Sometimes I receive these very profound insights, and it defies being able to be put into words. And that's sometimes how it's a truth that's coming from a higher place, because it can't be put into words, right? We can try to explain the beauty and awe and wonder and magic and mysticism and all of that, but it still sometimes is short of what the true experience of it all was, right? Have you guys ever had that experience? I bet you have. So together, the gate 62 and the gate 61 offer this invitation to us for the week. Ground yourself in wonder, not certainty. This is not the ajna, right? The ajna has certainty. The head center does not. And the throat center is communicating the wonder. Speak from clarity, not from control. And if you don't have clarity, don't speak, right? You don't have to speak. Prepare your message, right? Prepare what it is that you want to say. But let it be inspired, not micromanaged. Don't let that, perfection streak get caught into what it is that you want to share. So this is a week ahead for us to prepare for, or to engage in inspired preparation, right? Where your words and your plans and your insights are aligned with something greater than yourself, right? So let the mystery kind of guide your message for the week ahead. All right. Let me stop sharing this. Any questions about human design in general? Because I know some of you are new to the show and you might have questions about human design itself and how that works. Oops, I almost removed myself and not the picture. Here I am. Okay, so JLo, OMG, I will have 8 defined centers this week, creating 6 extra channels for me. Ooh, yes, meditation time to receive. And that prompts me to remind you that confusion is a part of this. Remember, Neptune is also retrograde. we we didn't get the opportunity to take it as deep as we just took Saturn, but Neptune is also retrograde, and that can sometimes show us where we have been really confused, where we're not clear. And both now, Neptune and Saturn retrograde in the relative signs that they are in. So Kelly, you're welcome. And J-Lo, yes, my Mercury is in 24, so you're ready because that's going to complete this channel. This channel? Oh my Lord. This channel of rationalization, right? That you can't rationalize the mystery. So many times, like we share, and this is going to be personal sharing, but so many times we experience, members of our family experience Brian, even as he's passed over. We experience things like, for example, a dime and a penny showing up, and that has happened to us so many times repeatedly. Remember, that's an 11 cents. 11 is the day that he passed, and you try to rationalize that sometimes when you have that connection. We've gotten so past that. Now we just say, "Hey, Brian, hi, glad you're with us," right? Hello, we love you, miss you, because it has happened so many times. I can't just rationalize away that 11 cents just happens to show up on at tender moments or in response to a question. It just there's this wonder, there's this magic, there's this awe, right? So the 61 to the 24 sometimes tries to rationalize, to use logic to rationalize what's happened in the mystery, and it's not possible. Just allow the magic, right? Allow the wonder. And JLo says she's obsessed with creating on Canva for my own brand, on Canvas or Canva, for your own brand. Keep the obsession, keep wondering, keep playing, keep the awe, right? Just keep doing what it is that makes you feel good. Okay, I don't see any other questions out there about human design. And, I've been, because my Aries is on the 10th house, I've been really reevaluating um, the work I do, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I'm really being pulled to, I do love sharing astrology. It answers a lot of questions, but I think human design answers so many more that I'm really feeling drawn to experience more human design readings, more different types of human design readings. In fact, I do a lot of solar return astrology readings, but now I'm wanting to do solar return human design readings because I think it answers some vital questions that sometimes are left out of the astrology. And if I could combine it and make it in an hour of a session, I would do that. So maybe some of you, as your birthdays come up and you book readings, I may experiment um, with combining human design and astrology for you, which of course now as soon as I talk about human design, I get pulled into the gene keys, which takes it even deeper, right? And makes it even more personal as it connects to our DNA and all of that. So, uh, J-Lo, OMG. Janet, I was going to ask you about one I discovered while looking at mine. Maybe it can help you. What did you discover? I'm lost about that question. One I discovered while looking at mine. Ask me the question. I want to know. Or tell me about it. Canva, but this was autocorrect. Oh, I know. Autocorrect. Don't we love it? About human design chart. Okay, good. Let's ask away. One of the things that I've been learning about is how planets offer us up opportunities to learn, to develop, to make the most of the transit, but it isn't always predictive. So, and this is a wound that I have right now at this particular moment around astrology. I did a reading a few months back for some very dear friends who were relocating. And when I looked at their charts, it was spectacular. The opportunity for them to have this beautiful, magical, wonderful life in their new abode was so high. And I translated that to them, right? I'm looking at it. But the experience that they've been having is anything but that. And I'm like, wow, where did I go wrong? Like how did this happen? Like how is it that everything that I thought would be so positive and joyful for them has been a freaking nightmare? And of course I want to take that burden on to myself, but it isn't my burden because I'm not necessarily predicting, but I'm offering you the opportunity to see the highest and best of what can be if you clear out the fear and you clear out your distractions, or you fear you know your um, resistance to experiencing the highest and the best. And that makes me really think about human design. What if I had looked at their human designs in that transit? Would I have seen where the complications would have been? So that's why I'm really thinking I need to blend them more frequently in people's readings. So expect that as you sign up for readings throughout the next several months. Okay, well, I'm really done here. I don't see any other questions. JLo, if you have a question or something about the human design chart, reach out, let me know. I'm going to see what I can reach for under here in my little bag of tricks as far as a card is concerned. One of my favorites, the Dream Weaver's Oracle. First of all, I love the picture. This is a deck by Colette Baron Reed. So let's draw a card for our Saturn retrograde, Sun in 62, Earth in 61 weekend, and see what wisdom we get from the cosmos. By the way, I was listening to a video yesterday about, I don't even know what it was about now, but they were talking about how this time period that we're all in has us way more tuned in to divination, right? It becomes something almost, we become collectively a little more obsessed. It is a time that's sort of akin to the Madame Blavatsky, Rudolf Steiner spiritual times when, you know, those divine seeking was like all the rage. All right, so I pulled the card 19. Only weavers know the time. And this is an interesting looking card. It kind of looks like an octopus. 8 legs there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But the card number is 19, which is a 1 or a 10 and a 1. So new beginning. Let's see what this card means for us. 19. Essential meaning is about releasing timetables, trusting timing, all the time in the world, and the power to expand time. The dream weavers know the perfect timing of your dreams to manifest in the outer world, but their timetable often does not coincide with your own expectations. Sometimes you could get caught up in worrying that you're running out of time, that you might have missed the proverbial boat for success. But this is false. The universe doesn't operate in linear time. The dream weavers are moving the threads of fate and destiny around the cosmic loom for your benefit right now. It's time to release your need to know the timing of things and trust that if you keep taking one step at a time, following the signs that sparkle in the mysterious threads of synchronicity and serendipity, you will be so much happier. Life is an adventure, so let go of your need to have things your way, when you want it, how you want it, the way you want it. The universe might have a better way, a better idea of what you need. So stay curious and open. You are so blessed, and what is truly yours will not be withheld from you. Trust in divine timing, and all will be well. Hmm, that's a great message to leave us with for the weekend. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you on Monday when we take a look at the week ahead. Bye for now.